Good morning, members. We have a quorum. Meeting is now called to order. Agenda item number 1, confirmation of minutes. Minutes of the meeting held on 10th of October have been sent to members. The Secretary has not received any proposed amendment. So if members don't have other views, then shall we confirm the minutes, please? Does any member propose confirmation? Okay, you all agree. Thank you very much. Item 2, date next meeting and the items for discussion. As for the items of discussion on Friday, we have received a letter from Mr. Sin Chung Kai, and he asked this administration to discuss the issue of the creation of the RAM, Regulatory Affairs Manager grade, and its impact on the Telecommunications Engineer TE grade. In fact, the Bureau has replied. Mr. Sin's question, Mr. Sin's letter was sent in on the 15th of November. In fact, the issue was raised in June, and the administration replied in August. This is nothing new. In August, perhaps we invite the SES to enter the room because we may need the response from the administration. Please invite the representatives of the CSB into this room, please. As we date the next meeting, it is the 15th of November. Beg pardon. It is the 16th of December 2013 at 10:45 a.m. And we've agreed on 2 items for discussion. In fact, they were proposed by the administration. Employment situation of non-civil service contract staff and manpower situation of the Hong Kong Post. These issues were raised by members. May I welcome Mr. Paul Tang, Secretary for Civil Service, and Mr. Raymond Wong, Permanent Secretary, and also their colleagues. Ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing the next meeting and items of discussion. The date 16th of December 2013, we have 2 items on the agenda which were raised by your Bureau. And then there is an item proposed by Mr. Sin Chung Kai. He sent in a letter on the 15th of November. He wants to discuss the creation of a new grade and its impact on the TE grade. In fact, in August, we received a reply from the CSB, and members were of the view that there was no need to discuss the matter further within this panel. Now, you may follow the matter up within the ITB panel. The Secretary, yes, I think we share the same view. The member is concerned about this issue. We believe the reorganization will affect telecommunications, and in fact the OFCA has already explained the matter with the relevant panel. And we, in our letter, said that we had no policy to transfer professional grades into non-professional grades. There was no such policy, and there was no similar proposal in the pipeline. Therefore, it is only limited to the TE grade. Under such circumstances, it is more appropriate to follow the matter up at in the ITBP. I would like to speak, Mr. Sin Chung Kai, 5 minutes. I don't want to travel with the documents. Well, I raised that at the ITBP, and they throw me to this panel, and here I am thrown back to the ITBP. In fact, the letter was jointly signed by Lo Wai Kok and Charles Mock. and then they were thrown back to this panel. I think the administration has to have a better communication instead of pushing us around. Mr. Secretary, Mr. Sin's view that the administration has to reply and the other panel doesn't want to discuss the matter. Chairman, we will go back to talk to the OFCA and also CDB. We believe this should be followed up by the other panel. My question is very simple. The administration should agree on which panel should follow the matter up. If it is the ITBP, in fact, we proposed the matter at the ITBP meeting and they threw us to this panel. Now, if you decided to discuss the matter with the ITBP, then ask them to discuss the matter and don't throw me around. I think Mr. Sin's requirement is very simple. Now you say it doesn't affect all civil servants, it doesn't affect all grades, you are not going to change all the grades, it's just the OFCA. So please go back and talk to them. The requirement is the matter has to be discussed more formally, so find a suitable platform, please. Mr. Lee Yan, do you want to comment on this issue? Well, my question is on the items for discussion at the next meeting. Now, there is an item on manpower situation for Hong Kong Post. But manpower situation is not just, a manpower problem is not just limited to the Hong Kong Post. As you know, the trade unions of the buildings department also asked for increase in manpower, and the buildings department is going to create an AD post. But there is no indication of how many new posts will be created at the front line. I want to ask the administration, over so many years, there has just been an increase of civil servants by 1%, and that is lagging behind with the growth in the economy and the rise in population. And there is a much broader spectrum of public service. Concerning the Post, Hong Kong Post, and the buildings department, they are just examples, and I want to discuss a much broader issue. I don't know whether the administration has already divided the cake. I hope that before the budget is finalized, say in December, we can have a special topic to discuss the overall manpower situation of the civil service. This is the first thing I want to raise. The second thing is about the retirement age of the civil servants. As said by the Secretary, the review will be completed before the end of the year. Shall we discuss the matter after the review report is available, or before the report is available? Shouldn't the Bureau come to us and discuss the matter first? Madam Chairman, I hope you can deal with this more urgent matter, which is the shortage of civil servants. The Secretary. Mr. Lee has 2 points. First, on retirement civil servants. We propose to discuss the matter in the second quarter of next year. We will report to you our study. We want to complete the internal review before the end of this year or early next year, and we also need to conduct internal discussion within the administration. Early next year, we will consult the civil service unions. That's our timetable, and we think in the second quarter we can inform you the study outcome. Now we have a package, and as for the implementation, it depends on your view. As for civil service establishment, it has been growing by about 1% over the year, and as for the future increase, it really depends on the budget. Many departments are facing severe manpower pressure, and we will increase our manpower. But and also in the second quarter, with the implementation of the new budget, we will discuss with you the establishment and retirement and strength of the civil service. We are now studying the budget arrangement and see if we can increase our manpower. We know the demand of the departments, but we are still working out discussing the actual numbers. Ms. Lee, as for retirement age, I think we should have a hearing in the beginning of next year so as to listen to the views of the trade unions. I think a more important, urgent matter is about civil service manpower. If we wait for the finalization of the budget, then we will have to wait for another year. We want to have a platform to express our views as to whether there is enough strength within the civil service. Now, the Secretary has admitted that the increase has just been 1%. That's too low. I don't know whether 1% is the cap, and I believe that's the case, or I suspect that this is the case. He will deny that, of course. But, Madam Chairman, can there be a meeting in December to discuss civil service manpower instead of waiting for the finalization of the establishment and the budgets, and that will be water under the bridge? Mr. Lee, I'm equally concerned about your two issues, but it is not meaningful to discuss the matter among ourselves. You and I are not civil servants. You mentioned a hearing. I think it's a good thing to listen to the views of the trade unions. Shall we arrange that? Arrange for that? I don't know whether you can arrange for that. I hope that can be done in December, in particular, with regard to manpower. I think we need to invite the civil service unions and also concerned groups which are concerned about the performance of civil servants. I think one public hearing can consider the two matters. They're related. I want to do it in December. We have to find time, find venue. I leave it to the Secretariat. Mr. Sin, I support a public hearing. If it is a public hearing, it should be a public hearing, and it shouldn't be just limited to the trade unions. Yes, I believe there will be more trade unions attending, but we shouldn't just limit it to civil servants. A public hearing means a public hearing. Ms. Emily Lau. Now, when we had a meal with the Secretary, I raised that many government departments claim that they didn't have enough manpower, whether it is AFCD or the Immigration Department. And that is a question in respect of the Immigration Department at the legislative meeting. And the Secretary knows that which departments are claiming loudly for more resources from the budget. You say that you cannot disclose the matter to us, but I think the LegCo should look into the problem more carefully. If there aren't enough frontline officers, they are really have a hard time and they can't do their job. And there are a lot of disclosures in the newspapers, one thing after another. I hope the Secretary has to understand the situation and inform this Council. I don't know whether you know what departments are claiming for, calling for help. The Secretary. Well, I just want to add 1 or 2 points concerning your retirement. If members want a hearing, that's entirely the decision of this panel. I just want to explain to you that at the present state, even our colleagues are not able to give you any detailed views, because after we have compiled the report, we have recommendations for our colleagues to make comments. If they are going to give their views now, their views may be too broad or too vague. As for manpower, I've already explained that we understand the needs of the departments, but in adding manpower, we need to consider actual workload and also use of public resources. Many departments want to add manpower, but the CSB has to consider other ways to deal with the problems, if any. And say if there can be any change in priorities or change in procedures to cope with the situation. We understand what they're asking for. As for the increase in establishment next year, at the present stage, we can't say anything. We have to wait for the finalization budget. Mr. Tan Kapil. Mr. Secretary, manpower is the primary concern, in particular the work sector. Concerning the NCSC, last time you gave quite a good report. But what gratuities are available for NCSC, and what grade, what department, what ranks, and is there any offsetting of long service pay and severance pay? In fact, employers do set off use LCS long service pay or set off, in particular the contractors of SWD, and it has become an outcry. Have you heard that? Yes, indeed.
Now, we've had quite a bit of discussion on this. We try to have a public hearing in December. We welcome civil servant and non-civil servant groups to join to discuss the manpower issue and the delayed retirement issue. Of course, one would also touch upon morale and management issues. I think people are free to speak in the public hearings. The Secretariat, please arrange. Next, item number 3 on the agenda. The Civil Service Outstanding Service Award and other commendation schemes for civil servants, Mr. Tang. I'd like to share with you a few points. Firstly, of course, the government tries to maintain a well-performing civil service. We need to have a fair commendation scheme to stimulate morale and to try to maintain excellent quality service. Now, on the Outstanding Service Award, there are 4 items. First, there is the Civil Service Outstanding Service Award Scheme. This is based on bureaus or departments, and we started this in 1999. It's biennial, and this year it's been quite well received. We have received 93 nominations from 30 bureaus or departments, and the details are in the document. And I'd like to mention in particular that the scheme pays particular attention to the assessment process by all parties concerned. So we have invited the Hong Kong Management Association to co-organize the schemes. We invited a total of 30+ seasoned managers from different service industries, including retail, finance, hospitality, transportation, property management, etc. Now, they will be responsible for the first stage assessment, including interviews with participating bureaus and departments and screening. And in the final stage, there will be 4 members of LegCo, including the chairperson, participating in the final education panels. There will also be district council members, the staff side members of the Central Consultative Councils, and senior officials from the CSB and professional organizations. We also choose 2,400 residents of members of the public, and we also invite by random sample all members of LegCo and district councils to vote in an anonymous survey for the Best Public Image Award. And then also we have the 3 other schemes. Firstly, the Hong Kong SAR honors and awards system, and we nominate civil servants. On average, 140 civil servants receive awards in the past few years per year. And then there's the commendation letter scheme. This is administered by the bureaus and departments themselves. Now, basically, there are several criteria. Firstly, at least 3 years of outstanding performance for 3 years, and they have promoted the image of the department, or they have been brave and they warrant special recognition. And in the past 5 years, on average, we have 1,800 civil servants receiving this commendation letter. And also we have the Secretary of the Civil Service Commendation Award Scheme. This was introduced in 2004 by the CSB, and every year the CSB, on behalf of the government, selects civil servants on a service-wide basis for award, and there must be at least 5 outstanding performance for at least 5 consecutive years. And we have 80 places each year, but depending on the need, there can be flexibility. Nomination is by permanent secretaries and heads of departments or grades. And the awardees are finally given the awards by the SCS. This year we have 77 civil servants from 35 bureaus and departments who received these awards. And we think that this is well received by the public, and this helps to promote morale and quality of service. So we will continue with these schemes and try to improve them as best we can. Thank you, the Secretary. Mr. Yip Kin Yun. Now, I'd like to raise some questions on the Civil Service Outstanding Service Award Scheme. Now, looking at the past few years, looking at the participation. Now, in 2007, 130 nominations from over 40, and 2013, only 93 nominations from 10 odd departments. So there has been a decrease of almost 40%. Now, there are 2 possibilities. One, now actually the scheme is not as attractive as before, and maybe many civil servants are suffering from low morale, so they are not interested in joining. Also, looking at the winning departments, they tend to be the same more or less the same over the years. So some departments by nature are not do not get public recognition so easily. Now they may be enforcement agencies and may not be so popular with the public, so they may have given up. So this may become a sort of routine procedure. Maybe there can be some review to see how the scheme can be improved and to attract more departments and more civil servant groups. The Secretary, I thank the member for his question. Now, I will speak first, and other colleagues can take it up. Now, we think the departments are enthusiastic. It's not individual civil servants. It's on a departmental basis, and there are not that many places, and it's quite competitive. So it might be thought that one has to nominate only if the quality reaches a certain level. Now, of course, there are many frontline departments who are nominated: immigration, LCSD, AFCD, housing department, observatory, etc. So I don't think it's only a certain portion of the departments, and the awards address different situations, for instance, crisis, incidents, service related, and so it's very often interdepartmental in terms of participation. So right now, a lot of services do not require coordination, but many awards go to departments on an interdepartmental basis. Looking at 2011 and 2013, we can see that in 2011 there were many participating teams that compete on cooperation basis or interdepartmental basis. Maybe back then, at that time, there were many cooperation opportunities. Looking at 2013, there were 13 departments, and in 2011 there were 29. So the number of departments do differ quite a lot. So it depends on the activities each year, or whether there are cooperation opportunities in a particular year. Now, the award scheme has been in place for so many years that people treat it as routine and people are not interested. Now, in fact, we review the scheme every time it's completed, and we come to the LegCo panels to give a report. Now, in the past few years, as I report, we took on board members' views and made some improvements. For instance, Mr. Yip mentioned whether it's more difficult for the law enforcement departments because they may not be so popular with members of the public. And we have listened to members' views, so we have introduced an additional award on enforcement. So these departments can also propose some good schemes and join in the competition. So we take into account the latest developments in society and introduce new elements. In 2013, in the General Public Service Team Award and interdepartmental service award schemes, we introduced a new meritorious award on integrity management. Mr. Poon, Vice Chairman. Now, I have sat on the adjudication panel, so I'd like to declare my interest. Now, I'd like to follow up now in para 14 on the publicity aspect. You said you will provide some videos. Now, you say that you will have a scheme on for students to participate. Now, how has been the progress? Now, over 200 schools will now join the scheme to visit the departments concerned under this school promotion program. Nick Sin Chung Kai and then Mr. Tan Ka Pil. Now, I did also sit on the panel. Now, the three categories of awards, of course, can be continued, but as a LegCo member or participating member of the public, perhaps I think there can be more participation by the public in these award schemes, and let the members of the public make suggestions on how to improve public service. Now, if some of these suggestions are considered practical by the departments and implemented accordingly, then the members of the public can get an award. Now, this is different from the internal awards. This is about how the government reacts to suggestions or aspirations by the public. Now, it's not about political. Now, for instance, the report books of the police, now it's all handwritten. Now, and many members of the public have suggestions about this, and the departments can study these suggestions and they improve the service accordingly. You can give them an award. Now, maybe you can't do it this year, but in the medium to longer term, maybe you can change that.
As suggested by Mr. Ip, after running it for so many years, you need to introduce some change to the program. Now, concerning the Interdepartmental Partnership Award, Service Enhancement Award, it is in respect of improvement service. As for Mr. Sin's question of, say, spelling out how the department responds to the demand of the public, we can take that into account as well. My main concern is this. That's a trigger. The trigger doesn't come from the department. Your 3 awards start with the departments, but my suggestion is that the trigger comes from the public. People can raise suggestions on how to improve improve public service, and the department responses. And then if the department responds well, then it will be given a reward. Yes, the Permanent Secretary. As for the assessment standard, it is very difficult to separate the proposal from the view, from the suggestions of the public. Although the ideas come from the civil service departments themselves, in fact, such ideas may be the result of stimulations from members of the public. And Mr. Sin's suggestion will be considered by us very carefully. Mr. Tang has already left, then Ms. Emily Lau. Thank you, Chairman. If I may refer to the annex, if you may refer to page 3, it's the Silver Award, Crisis Incident Support Service Award. Silver Prize, nobody. Why? And page 2, interdepartmental partnership. I think there is lack of partnership among the government departments. If we look at the Commissioner for Audit report, you know the departments don't talk to each other. Do you have a chance to let the public to respond as to what are their main concerns and in which areas they expect civil servants to do better? Well, the first point is very simple. There were already 2 gold prizes, the fire services and the police. So 2 champions, and therefore there is no first runner-up. As for Interdepartmental Partnership Award, we want to encourage partnership between government departments or among government departments to enhance service to the public. As you ask for public participation, as suggested by Mr. Sin too, we will go back to consider under what circumstances that can be taken into account. Say, for example, the departments should put down very carefully, put down more details in respect of how they respond to the calls of the public. And there are certain tasks which may not be noticed by civil servants, which may not be recognized by the public. Therefore, members of the public may not be able to recognize that. But if we just look at public opinions, then the not so frontline departments may not be recognized easily. But improvement and enhancement of public service is our main concern. I hope you pay attention more to interdepartmental partnership. Look at the Commissioner for Audit's report, and you can see a lot of problems in terms of so-called partnership. And also concerning the police, they have got quite a lot of awards in these few pages. But we have seen serious conflicts between the police and members of the public. There are reasons for giving the police awards, but the police should be informed as to how they interact with the public. There are many frontline officers who come into contact with public. And when there are conflicts, there is news. And we see such conflicts a lot. Those who give awards to the police have reasons for doing so. I don't understand why, among so many conflicts, the police is able to get so many awards. Now, as for team award, that's about teamwork. Say, for example, the police dog team. We look at the actual work. Say, a certain department attracts certain comments or opinions. From the public, we have the best public image. And people query why the police can get silver award. But we have already explained that this is basically the result of voting by members of the public, and councillors also have a chance to vote. And we've select at random 2,000 odd citizens to cast their votes. I think the police is concerned about their relationship with members of the public, and they've done a lot of work to improve their image. As for law enforcement departments, unavoidably, the officers come into conflict with the citizens. There's some kind of tension which cannot be avoided. I hope the Secretary will relay our concern to the police. I think he has heard it. Mr. Samuel Chung. Law enforcement agencies have to maintain law and order and public safety, and their officers unavoidably get into conflict with members of the public. But we should not brush aside the whole team. I also had been an adjudicator 2 or 3 times, and I found that quite useful. Now, the use is to encourage the departments to improve the service, to seek excellence. And in fact, looking at the facts, they do consider how to improve their service from the perspective of the public. Otherwise, they will just follow the rules, and they continue to receive their pay, whether they do any, they introduce any innovation or not. And we are not spending a lot on these awards. We want to encourage them to build team spirit. In fact, the Immigration Department won quite a number of awards. Say, they told us what kind of service had been improved. In particular, I can recall the automatic clearance system. And we should confirm that, say, the observatory in the past did won quite a number of awards. But some departments may have difficulties to make improvements. How should we encourage them to participate so that the awards do not focus on a few departments? We've raised these questions. We want more departments to participate. By more participation, there will be strong incentive to improve their work, enhance their efficiency. Well, that is worth encouraging, and that's worth supporting, and we don't spend a lot on that. The Secretary. Well, I fully agree with Mr. Tam. As said by the Permanent Secretary, we conduct a review once every year. We have completed our exercise this year, and we will review on that, and we'll encourage more departments to participate in that. Mr. Deng Ka-Piu, I have no strong views on the schemes, but the disciplined services are very dedicated. They face difficulties, they brace inclement weather, they provide rescue, they provide city management service. I just want to know, is there an incentive scheme, a reward scheme, or recognition scheme, say, to give recognition to civil servants who, say, stand firm and provide dedicated service despite Typhoon Signal number 10. And I hope that kind of reward will extend not only will extend from the civil service also to other public service. But we also heard reports of laxity and also laziness cases. Now, if that also casts a bad image, and so but by widely reporting these civil service awards, will you get the recognition of the public? Well, you mentioned, say, there is a tragedy, and the civil servants put in a lot of effort to provide rescue. Now, we give recognition to each and every civil servant who participates in the, say, rescue of a year ago, the marine disaster. Some colleagues were given the honors in the HKSAR honor system. We also have the letter of recommendation and SCS commendation award. They are also given to the colleagues. As for negative reporting or negative reports, we our members discussed the CSOSAS, and in fact we had a program made by the RTHK which was aired in September, and that helped to cast a positive image for the civil service. Concerning our award schemes, we'll continue, the award schemes will continue to arrange reporting by the media. Now, the previous one was done on a departmental basis or team basis, and in the future, for other schemes, for individuals, we focus attention on the individual civil servants. Now, you ask the RTHK to do a program that will be aired, but what about reporting by the media? Can you make sure that it will cast a positive image, it will give a recognition to the civil servants who have been dedicated to their duties? Well, the reporting by the media is not something we can control, but we do send a positive message, and we believe that the media will report that faithfully, and our duty is to send the message, the positive message through the media.
其他問題呢，咁我哋就結束。
If there are no further issues, then we come to the end of discussion on this item of agenda. We come to the fourth item of agenda, the disciplinary matters of the civil service. Now, the document just now talked about commendation of good performance, but we also need to take punitive action at times. So when there is this misconduct or criminal offense, then we institute disciplinary action. We have, of course, summary disciplinary action. This is in respect of offenses of a minor nature or misconduct of a minor nature. Now, as for formal disciplinary action, this is to address the more serious misconduct. Now, when we adopt such action, we follow the principles of natural justice and observe procedural propriety. We have safeguards in place to ensure that the suspected civil servants get a proper hearing, a fair hearing, and they have adequate chance to defend themselves. And they can also apply for legal or other forms of representation at disciplinary hearings. Now, in terms of sanctions, of course, there are different levels. Now, concerning misconduct or criminal offense, it depends on the nature of the matter. We also consider now the previous performance, the relevant grade, and his performance records. Now, for senior civil servants, we think they need to set an example. So where they are convicted of misconduct, etc., they may be subject to stronger sanctions than for lower-level civil servants. Now, as for disciplinary services, the PSC, Public Service Commission, may be also consulted if the members of the civil service are concerned, are unhappy with the ruling. They may also apply to make representation to the Chief Executive under Section 20 of the Public Service Administration Order, or petition the Chief Executive under Article 48(13) of the Basic Law. Now, looking at the past 5 years, looking at the punishment handed down, we can see that has been a declining trend. For instance, in 2011, 2010 to 11, there were close to 200 and close to 300, and the number has been coming down, and we try to update our measures so that they remain appropriate. So in 2012 to 13, the number has come to 232. Gloria Mo will be the first, and then there are several other members, totally 5, who have raised their hands to speak. Claudia Mo. Just now, the Secretary mentioned that there will be a review of the existing mechanisms so that fairness is demonstrated. Now, we are a bit surprised. Now, this includes the fines. Now, negligence in public duties. Now, you think that you can restore the matter or restitute the matter by making him pay, and how much you deduct from his pay. And secondly, for discipline services, now one of the ways to punish them is to make them perform additional duties. That's also surprising. Now, civil servants have to perform duties. That's natural. Now, if they need to perform additional duties, and should that be a punishment? Now, this has implications of conflict with the nature of the service, and this is also problematic with the person being punished. And also the superior, when he assigns additional duties, maybe he can be impartial and ask a middle-ranking officer to wash toilets, for instance. Now, what kind of additional duties are these in respect of the discipline services? I thank the member for her question. I will give a general answer first, and then other colleagues can supplement. Now, mainly we look at the nature of the incident, how serious it is. Of course, the fine is a deduction from the salary. This is possible along with other ways of punishment. Now, can you tell me how much the fine is? How is it suggested by the investigation committee concerned? My colleagues will comment in greater depth. Now, there are two main ways. Firstly, the pay point will be lowered, or secondly, a deduction from salary. Pay point not lowered by 2 points, and deduction of salary not more than 1 month of salary. Now it seems that the salary reduction seems to be more reasonable, but a fine is surprising. Now, how about additional duties? Now, this is mainly for the discipline services. They arrange it themselves. That's precisely my question. They arrange it themselves, so there might be impartial or humiliating duties like washing toilets. We do not have the information on hand. It's done by the discipline services. There is appeal mechanism, however. Now, if a colleague is unhappy with the punishment, there is a channel for appeal. Madam Chair, do you think that the person punished dares to appeal? You don't have the information. You leave it all to the discipline services. Originally, it's not supposed to be answered by me, but since you addressed the question to me, I will try to answer that. Now, my first job in the civil service is Assistant Secretary Civil Service Discipline. That's 1975 to 77. At that time, there were a lot of appeals. People came up and made a scene in my presence. They sought me out. So now the civil servants are a bit more quiescent. Is it that right? Now we still handle many cases. Do you have the figures? We will supply that after the meeting. Next, Tenka Pew. Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, in the table 2, where there's criminal offense, there may be a removal from the job. Now, there have been over 50 cases in the past 5 years. Now, did they, in these cases of dismissal, did they commit the offenses in the offices, or they abused their public duties in these offenses or other situations? Now, I think there should be more than 66 cases. Maybe it didn't go as far as dismissal. Maybe there were other forms of punishment. Maybe it's a criminal record, or and then how do you draw the line on whether there should be dismissal? And also on debts owed by the civil servant. Now, will that directly affect them? Will they be punished for it? In what situations will they be punished for that? And also, the standards for civil servants compared to the subvented organizations such as the hospital authority, how does that compare? Are you more strict or more lenient? The Secretary. Now I will comment first. Now on dismissal. Now basically that's the most serious situation. Now I can't go into details, but generally these are more serious cases. Most of them related to the work concern, and in some cases, even though the misconduct is not related to the duty, it may be so serious as to warrant dismissal. We consider them very carefully. In cases, certain cases, we seek the opinion of the PSC. Now, on subvented organizations, I'm unable to provide an answer. Now, we have had a long history of management. We are a major organization. So our approach may not be directly comparable to those at subvented organizations. They might have their own considerations. Now, may I ask in addition, so work-related offenses would draw more serious punishment? Is that the case? For instance, sex-related offenses, there are 10 cases. Now, are these work-related, and what departments? Now, interesting question. Maybe you can supplement. Now, on the breakdown for the cases of dismissal, perhaps you can look at the page, second page in Annex B, the nature of misconduct or criminal offense, and under criminal offense there is now misconduct in now criminal is included. Now for sexual offenses, now when we decide on the level of punishment, we have regard to the relation to his work and also the rank of the officer. Now, what does that mean? Now, the public is particularly concerned. For instance, a registered teacher or a social welfare officer, they are concerned about these in particular. Now, so for sexual offenses, now they may be related to the actual work, and what departments are those? So teachers and social welfare, social workers are particularly concerned about this. Now, it depends on whether how serious is the nature of the misconduct, so we have to look at particular cases. It's not always the case that work-related offences will be punished more severely. Next, Sin Chung Kai. I thank the administration for the information. The government has to monitor, or rather manage, the huge civil service. So the number of punishments has been minuscule in proportion. Now, have you done a comparison or benchmarking compared to the private sector organizations? Now, in the past years, you have adopted this mechanism. Now, it's not easy to punish a civil servant. The procedure may be complicated and lengthy. So Have you done any benchmarking to see whether it's on the low side compared with the private sector? Also, it may be a little bit outside the topic, but this is clearly about discipline. But for the poorly performing civil servants, how do you sanction them? We are not talking about dismissals, but do you have clear ways to discipline them? Now, of course, there might be a small minority of civil servants. They might be subject even to complaints by their superiors, but they cannot be fired easily.
But this question is related to performance civil servants. Well, the Secretary, if I may answer the second question first, I know that you are referring to civil servants who underperform, who have not breached any rules or laws. Now, if one underperforms, in the past we have been encouraging the supervisors to write faithful appraisal reports, and if one underperforms, one's promotion prospect will be undermined, and the increment is not as of right, and the increment is only recommended if that is good performance. In the past, people thought that increment was as of right, but in fact, we have been promoting a culture in which the increment is not as of right. As for the comparison between the civil service and the private sector firm, it's difficult to do so. We've seen a decline in the number. Some say why it's so low. I think the reduce in the number is something that should be. We don't have targets. The less, the better. The less punishment, the better. The less number of cases, the better. We don't want to set targets, because if we set targets, once we've reached the target, then we don't need to do anything. We want to reduce it. Prevention, education, and training are all important, and we've done a lot on all these. Madam Chairman, the retention is on discipline matters. But the previous document is on award, and this document is on penalty. The previous one is a carrot, and this is the stick. Now, if you want to tell us the carrot and the stick, now this one, this time, it may already have been outdated. Next time, can you have a more comprehensive paper to tell us, say, the increments? I think more than 60% of civil servants already reach the maximum point. How can you manage them? Make sure that they perform. How many have increments? How many have full increments? How many have 1/3? How many have 1/4? Can you provide us the details next year? The Permanent Secretary. If the civil servant underperforms, according to the PSAO, the colleague may be asked to retire because of public interest. And there is such a mechanism. Apart from this, if a colleague makes a mistake, then there is a mechanism to issue a warning letter or verbal warning issued by the superior. Within the mechanism, we are allowed to deal with civil servants who underperform significantly. In comparison with, it may be difficult for us to compare the civil service with the private sector. In the private sector, their solution may just simply be a dismissal. As for us, we have different levels of punishment. The Vice Chairman, Mr. Poon Siu Ping. Thank you, Chairman. As for civilian grade officers asking for legal representative, the approval rate is 100%, but very low for the disciplined grades. According to your paper, you are going to enhance the arrangement for legal representative. You will enhance the DSL. You will need to amend the law, and you are discussing that with the staff side. How far have you gone? How far have you gone in respect of the discussion? Now, concerning the proposed amendment to the subsidiary legislation regulating the discipline services, we are talking to relevant unions and the management of the discipline services on how to enhance the legislation that has been enacted theoretically. And if there is any change, we will have to repeal the ordinance and then ask members to reconsider a new one. And in the second quarter, we will come back to this panel. Our target is the second quarter of next year. As for the first question, Madam Chairman, as we have explained in the paper, with regard to the disciplined services, we do approve legal representative for serious cases. Ms. Emily Lau. My questions are as follows. Now, if a civil servant is penalized, his or her name will not be disclosed because of privacy. Is that correct? Para 12. High-ranking civil servants are expected to lead by example. If they have breaches or offences, they might receive a heavier punishment. Can you disclose some figures in this regard? And it's also said that the penalty will be made according to this Public Service Commission ordinance, and an independent advice will be sought from the PSC. How does it operate actually? Will the each and every case is independent, isn't it? In fact, in Annex B, we've provided the breakdown for the dismissal cases for Directorate or equivalent MPS 14 to 49 or equivalent, so on and so forth. As for senior civil servants, we expect them to lead by example. Say for the same or for similar breaches, the senior civil servants attract a heavier penalty. In considering punishment, we will make reference to precedents. As you know, precedents are very important, though not the only consideration within the civil service. The PSC looks at every case and we seek advice from the PSC, and they give an independent advice. They look into the circumstances of each case. They also consider how this case compares with previous cases. No two cases are 100% the same. Each case has to be considered according to its own circumstances. But the yardstick is by making reference to precedents. But we cannot exclude differences. We do not disclose the name of the civil servant disciplines because of privacy. Now, in the Annex. Annex B, MPS 14 to 49, and then somewhere below, middle ranking civil servants, junior ranking civil servants. Does a heavier penalty apply to the superior, or does it apply to those with certain ranks or grades? Now, according to Hong Kong laws, one cannot be penalized heavier because one is a senior civil servant in comparison with an ordinary person. Now, concerning the 11, MPS 14 to 49, how heavier are their punishments? Is it double or what? As for middle ranking and junior ranking, and also comparison with MPS 14 to 49, the MPS the discipline service pay scale is different from the MPS. If you can if you may refer to note A, B, C, and D, there are explanations. What about the other question? What do you mean by heavier? Double or what? Well, it depends on the circumstances of each case. This is one of the factors of consideration. The rank of the officer is one of the factors of consideration in deciding on the punishment. You have 11. How were they penalized? Do you have information in hand? Is it possible to disclose? The names will not be needed, but they may have to describe their nature. We don't have the information in hand in respect of the 11 cases and how were they penalized. We can provide information afterwards. The member asked whether the punishment was increased by 1/3 or doubled or what. It's difficult to quantify. We have to consider the gravity of the offense or breach. We have to consider the precedents. We have to consider the records and also the rank. It's difficult to quantify. We cannot say this is 1/3 more, this is 100% more. Well, it's my turn. I don't seek any I don't seek any clarification. Now, but you don't mention the procedures. But I was involved in that several decades ago. Now, I just want to know, before you take action, do you go to the DOJ and ask for whether there is prima facie case for misconduct? If there is, then you form an investigation committee. Where do the members of the committee come from? Are they independent? Are their ranks higher than the person involved? And when a conclusion is made as to, or rather, the committee has to decide whether there is any misconduct. And number two, whether recommendations will be made on punishment. And the recommendation is for the CSB, and then the CSB considers precedents, the ranking, the income. Say if one is from the Mod 1, MOD 1, who are low-ranking officers, is unreasonable to deduct a big chunk of his or her salary. And as for some ranks, you will have officers of some ranks, you will have to go to the PSB, or rather PSC. In the past, if it involved very senior officers, they went to the Commonwealth, the FCO, Foreign and Commonwealth Office. But you don't want the comparable part, the comparable rank is the liaison office, and therefore it's cancelled. But will there be punishment such as asking people to wash the toilets? Well, roughly speaking, what you said is what we are doing. In the year 2000, we have set up a secretariat so that we can focus our attention on the things to be done after it has gone through, the case has gone through the legal procedures and also the disciplinary procedures. As for simple matters, they are easier to be done, easier to be dealt with. But if there is an offense, we have to wait until there is a conviction before we can take disciplinary action.
Of course, when we take disciplinary action, we seek legal opinion, and of course the officer concerned can also make an appeal, and the case, if required, can also involve the PSC's opinion. Now, as the Secretary said, basically that is the procedure. Now, for civilian officer, for that matter to be handled by the SCSD, now there is a simplified procedure where the committee is involved to speed up the process. Now, in the case of discipline services, their own personnel will be involved in the investigation. So there will be a formal secretariat, so it's not less hard work than what I went through in the old days. So you still have to go through to the Justice Department, yes, Department of Justice. Next, Mr. Liu Cheung Kong. My question is about paragraph 8 of the department. It mentioned the Lam Siu Po case, and CFA said that there should be the accused should be can be allowed to be legally represented for the sake of justice, and then it said that the decision would be discretionary, and the disciplinary action, whatever the nature, will affect the reputation of the accused. And if there is disciplinary action, it will be put on his record and it will affect his chances of promotion. Now, if the officer concerned feels that he should be legally represented, will you consider giving approval in a general manner across the board? Because if the accused person feels that he should be legally represented and the adjudication panel feels that it's not warranted and not allowed, maybe it's against the principle of fairness. Now, we have to be careful. Now, in the CFA ruling, they made it clear that the legal representation right is not absolute. The department concerned should give approval based on principles of fairness. Now, first of all, we need to give the person adequate chance of defense, but if it's we don't want to make simple cases complicated with the presence of many lawyers. So that may drag out the process. So in approving or vetting the application, we take into consideration how serious is the alleged offense, how likely there is going to be legal points, and the abilities of verbal representation for the officer concerned, and the need for justice. So we think that these criteria will allow the department concerned to make a fair decision. For the more serious offences, as mentioned earlier, which may lead to dismissal, then all those cases require my permission, and so we think there should be a sound balance. Mr. Liu, I think the Secretary has touched upon the crux of the issue. Whether the matter is serious or not, it's decided by an adjudication panel. So it matters very much to the person concerned, because engaging a lawyer is very expensive. If he doesn't feel it's necessary, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't seek legal representation. If he does seek legal representation, it's because he feels the need for it. If the education panel rules against it, it may not be fair to the person concerned. Secretary? I think basically when we amend the law, we follow the ruling of the CFA. We give the discretion to the department responsible for the disciplinary action. Now, we are considering where the cases are quite clear and the officers are quite serious. Maybe we should give approval in those specific cases. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, we are almost at the end of discussion on disciplinary action. You don't have any questions? Okay. Second round, Tang Ka Piu. Now, there was a question just now about debt. Members of the public are concerned. At what level of debt will there be disciplinary action? And also, there's a distinction between criminal offense and misconduct. Now, do you have the figures on criminal offense in the past year? Now, what level of criminal offense will result in dismissal or forced retirement? Now, concerning the first question, the government will not take disciplinary action just because the officer cannot repay his debt or becomes bankrupt. But if he engages in misconduct, for instance, if he takes outside work without approval, or if he commits a criminal offense, only then will he be penalized. Nothing else to add, Mr. Tang? Okay, the second question. If you look at Annex A, it shows that in the past few years, following disciplinary proceedings, these are the figures now. For the whole year, there were 232 civil servants who were disciplined after disciplinary proceedings, but the action taken depends on the nature of how serious is the nature. Now, do you have figures on the criminal offenses, how they correspond to the sanction or the punishment concerned. Now, if he's criminally convicted, that doesn't necessarily mean that he will be subject to disciplinary action. It depends on the nature of the matter and other factors. Perhaps I can ask, does it depend on the punishment by the court? If it's custodial punishment, that if he goes to prison, then he has to be dismissed. If it's unconditional discharge, then it might be different. Now, for discipline services, that might well be the outcome, but for civilian grades, it depends on the nature. Well, they wouldn't be dismissed even for custodial punishment. We have 1 or 2 cases where a person is still kept on the job after he comes out of prison. Well, you are good employers, Mr. Sin Chung Kai. Now, concerning the document, mainly it's about disciplinary management. And I asked just now. Now, the Secretary said that there should be both punishment and a reward. Now, would you, at the request of me or the panel, whether you would adopt additional management measures, performance management measures? I understand Mr. Sin's question. Now, this may not have to do with disciplinary. I've made it clear that it's about management rather than disciplinary action. Maybe next time we can supply a document, because we will prepare a paper on the civil service. Yes, by all means, give us the document next time. Now, will it be that in the future you would have a regular report on performance management for LegCo? Perhaps we can consider that. So we have come to the end of discussion of this item, and AOB. We've already discussed the methods for discussion at the next meeting. So if there are no other AOBs, let me respond to the suggestion just now that there should be a public hearing on the voices from the public or from the civil servants on the retirement age. Now I can discuss with the Secretariat, perhaps the Civil Service Bureau would also like to hear these views at an early date. Now, one possibility is 16th of December. We have a meeting on that date. The 2 items for discussion on that date are not all that complicated. So if we all agree, we can have an earlier meeting and invite the deputations to come. Are there already many groups who are prepared to talk to LegCo about retirement age? Now, this is a matter of public concern, and yet there may be ripple effects affecting civil servants and subvented bodies. So maybe there should be a longer period of notice. Now, maybe it takes a couple of weeks for the matter to be put on the website. So they only have 2 weeks or so to discuss the matter within themselves. So executive committees may not have had the time to discuss the matter within the civil servant group. So maybe this can be after the Lunar New Year so that they come well prepared. Lee Cheuk-yan raised this point, and just now there were other members who would like to discuss this earlier. Personally, I think it's too late if it's after the Lunar New Year, because the persons affecting manpower have to be raised before the budget. Now, I think the latest should be January. Of course, it doesn't matter to the Civil Service Bureau. Leung Kwok-hong.
I believe some civil service groups are willing to express their views. Mrs. Yip and Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan have contacts with them. I think the earlier, the better. After the first hearing, there can be other things to follow. After the new year, everything, all eyes are on the budget. What are other views? It may not necessarily be December, but the latest is January. Shouldn't wait after the Lunar New Year. That will be too late. So, shall we say aim at 16th of December or January? What about January? Okay, January. Okay, then we aim at January. Okay, without further ado, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.